Before the MCU and before superhero movies really took off in box office, there was X-Men. Came out in 2000. This symbolised a moment where superhero movies were going to start to be taken more seriously. But over 25 years later, does this movie hold up? To really answer this question, we need to go over what was actually great about this film, what actually was really disappointing about this film. And the best place to start, in my opinion, is the best thing, and that some would argue is the greatest part about X-Men 2000, which is Magneto. The character of Magneto, played by Sir Ian McKellen, absolutely nailed that villainly performance and couldn't have played that character any better if he tried. And why I start on that character is that it's basically where the film starts, at the concentration camp, showing us how Magneto became Magneto, being put under that stress of his family being taken from him, being dragged in a different direction. That time was been stressful, and out came his superpower, the magnetic effect, which was able to destroy fences and bend bars. That was the moment, really, that cemented who Magneto was. But where did he become evil? Well, it explains that too. The fact that mutants were seen as bad people. And he didn't think that humans and mutants could coexist. And that made tons of sense, because you would think that they would be ostracized, in which they were captured, they were tested on, and that sort of stuff just did not make any sense why he wouldn't be all villainly. But on the flip side of that, Rogue and Logan storyline, brilliantly done. I think that seeing Logan be like a shoulder for Rogue to lean on, knowing that he's been through similar sort of stuff, ostracized as somebody with powers that could hurt people too. And hers is a little bit different because she's able to zap powers and be able to take that energy that they have of their powers. And her fleeing from her boyfriend being put into a coma, it just seemed to be the perfect partnership. Then I also really enjoyed Sabretooth's role, as he was a villain along their travels, being a nuisance. Really enjoyable character, probably got a little bit underused, but more on what got underused later on. And I also think Mystique, brilliant villain. She was so great as that villain that she became likable, and in future X-Men films we're sort of cheering for her, but it just seems to be the first introduction was perfect for some of those characters. Obviously this was the major setup for the rest of the franchise. X-Men was here, and to me, I think it was a great introduction to the franchise, because by this point we'd only really seen the Incredible Hulk and Blade, maybe I'm missing some, that really got explored on the big screen and on television. So it was nice to see, finally we got to see those comic book characters come onto the big screen. Now, this is where the problems start. As the reason why we're wanting more is because this film didn't really show us enough, in my particular opinion. Because I think the battles that we saw just weren't enough. I wanted to see more Logan battles. It felt like the handbrake was on and we weren't moving forward enough, and it felt like we were holding too much back. It felt that some of the stories and Professor Rex and Logan, it felt that we really missed out on those battles between some of these major characters with other villains like Mystique, Sabretooth. They spent a little bit of time on certain battles like the Wolverine and Sabretooth mini battle, but it felt that they were so few and far between that a lot of the movie became lost in this sort of boring feeling, instead of feeling really exciting and really up in the ante. Speaking of that up in the ante, that's why the film ending feels a little bit flat. I'm not saying it's bad, but it feels flat, because it feels that, like, if you're comparing with Blade and Spider-Man, which are top tier films, don't get me wrong, I don't think this is anywhere near their levels, but the reason why is because their endings feel like anything could happen. Something bad could happen to those X-Men characters. This feel like it was an easy ride for them. It felt like it was an easy task to take down Magneto, and you could always see that coming. With Spider-Man, you could not see that coming, because Spider-Man had been beat down. You think that they weren't going to kill Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man off by any stretch, but it felt that there was this stake. There was a high stake where something bad could happen. In this, I didn't have that high stake. It didn't feel like the stakes were as high as they needed to be for that superhero, those set of superheroes, to defeat this set of villains. It didn't feel that way. And answering the question, does this hold up? I think it does. I think it still holds up in 2026, because I still think if you put this in the MCU, it's still a solid film. I think I am being a little bit picky, and that's simply because the time frame that it was made around, which was the era of 99 where Blade came out, and like 2005, they had some banging superhero movies. Don't get me wrong, there were some shit ones, which we have also covered. But that's why I've rated this film probably 7.3 out of 10. But do let us know your thoughts down in those comments down. But what are your opinions on the first X-Men film? Is it good, bad, terrible, amazing? Do let us know, and if you haven't yet checked out our last movie review and some of our other videos, then check those out on screen now, because they're some absolute beauties.